Greetings. Today we'll visit a historical marker in Rising Sun, Indiana that notes the achievements of the Barkshire family. The Barkshire family was a family of former slaves that lived in Rising Sun, Indiana in Ohio County along the Ohio River. The members of this family were quite active in the Underground Railroad movement. Their farmer owner, Nancy Hawkins, though not a member of the family, was responsible for manumitting them as well as being closely associated with them after they moved across the river from Kentucky to Indiana. Nancy Hawkins lived from about 1776 until 1854. History knows little about Nancy before marriage to Joseph Hawkins around 1817. She was native to Virginia. She may have been married to, or at least the common law wife of, Dickie Barkshire, though the only evidence linking them is circumstantial. If so, she would possibly have known Samuel Barkshire prior to his transfer to Hawkins while he was enslaved by Barkshire. Sometime after John's death in 1836, she moved across the river to Rising Sun, Indiana, which is close to the same time as Samuel Barkshire and his family. Sometime after the move to Rising Sun, Nancy filed papers that officially manumitted Samuel's wife and children, as well as other slaves that she had brought to Rising Sun. Since there was a danger that manumitted slaves could be kidnapped and sold back into slavery, which often happened, Nancy ensured that their protections were filed prior to their manumission. Samuel Barkshire lived from about 1798 until April the 11th, 1875. Born about 1798 as a slave to Dickie Barkshire in Harrison County, Kentucky. After Dickie's death, his son Felix acquired him. Felix sold him to Joseph Hawkins, who manumitted Samuel in 1833 for the sum of $1. Samuel married Frances Newman, who was owned by Hawkins. The couple would have 6 children. Barkshire purchased land next to Hawkins' land, probably because Hawkins still owned his wife and children. Before moving to Rising Sun, Samuel had been engaged in helping escaped slaves in their quest to find freedom while still living in Kentucky. The land he purchased there bordered the Ohio River and provided a good conduit for slaves fleeing north. This was extremely dangerous for Barkshire, as if caught, he was subject to severe punishment. Sometime before 1840, the Barkshire family moved across the Ohio River to settle in Rising Sun. Barkshire worked as a cooper in Rising Sun, making many of the barrels used to ship goods on the river. He also continued his work in the Underground Railroad, serving as a contact person. He and his family hid escaping slaves and passed along bits of valuable information. After the passage of the Fugitive Slave Act in 1850, slave owners and bounty hunters seeking escaped slaves in the North became much more aggressive. They frequently crossed the river in search of escapees. Many times, slave owners appeared at the Barkshire home, angrily demanding that Samuel turn over their slaves. The family received threats of lynching and other forms of intimidation because of their activities. Barkshire's wife and children were also intimately involved in the movement, as was Samuel's former owner, Nancy Hawkins. Samuel's work in the underground movement created many enemies, mostly across the river, but many pro-slavery people in Rising Sun also disliked him. It also gained him many friends, both local and among abolitionists living in Kentucky. The network of friends paid off when he received advance warning of a plot to kidnap him and his family and sell them back into slavery. The threat did not materialize. He also gained notoriety nationwide as noted suffragette and abolitionist and social reformer Laura Smith Haviland sought his help. Well-known abolitionist Levi Coffin, whom many refer to as the president of the Underground Railroad, also knew of him. After his death, Samuel was interred at the Union Cemetery in Rising Sun, Indiana. His son Arthur Barkshire lived from 1825 until June the 25th, 1864. He was the son of Samuel Barkshire and Frances Harriet Newman. Arthur was native to Boone County, Kentucky. During his early life, he lived as a slave owned by Dickie Barkshire and later Joseph and Nancy Hawkins in 1836. Nancy Hawkins manumitted him in 1848 after she moved to Rising Sun in Indiana. Arthur, as well as his other siblings, became involved in the Underground Railroad movement as a conductor. He and Elizabeth Cuth married on June the 18th, 1854. Elizabeth lived in Ohio. When Arthur brought his new bride to Rising Sun, he violated Article 13 of the Indiana Constitution that they had adopted in 1851. The provisions of this article are stated below. Section 1. No Negro or mulatto shall come in to settle in the state after the adoption of this Constitution. Section 2. All contracts made with any Negro or mulatto coming into the state contrary to the provisions of the foregoing section shall be void, and any person who shall employ such Negro or mulatto or otherwise encourage him to remain in the state shall be fined in any sum not less than $10 nor more than $500. Section 3. All fines which may be collected for violation of the provisions of this article or of any law which hereafter be passed for the purpose of carrying the same into execution will be set apart and appropriated for the colonization of such Negroes and mulattoes and their descendants as may be in the state at the adoption of this Constitution and may be willing to immigrate. Section 4. The General Assembly shall pass laws to carry out the provisions of this article. The Indiana General Assembly passed a statute that read, quote, any person who shall employ a Negro or mulatto shall have come into the state of Indiana subsequent to the 31st of October, 1851, or shall encourage such Negro or mulatto to remain in the state shall be fined any sum not less than $10 and not more than $500, unquote. Someone filed a complaint against him, and he was charged with, quote, encouraging a Negro to remain in the state of Indiana. The suit, filed with the Ohio County Common Pleas Court. The court found him guilty and fined him $10 and expelled him from the state. Barkshire appealed the case to the Indiana Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld the decision contending that, quote, all contracts made with Negroes and mulattoes coming into the state contrary to the provisions of the 13th article, are void. Because the marriage itself, solemnized in contravention of both, must be regarded as both. Unquote. Thus, Barkshire and Elizabeth had to leave Indiana. They migrated back to her home state of Ohio. Barkshire enlisted in the 27th United States Colored Infantry Regiment when it organized in Delaware, Ohio, on January the 16th, 1864. Barkshire would die of disease on June the 25th, 1864. His brother Garrett was born on October the 31st, 1826, and passed away on May the 11th, 1894. Like his brother, during his early life, he lived as a slave owned by Dickie Barkshire and later Joseph and Nancy Hawkins. Nancy Hawkins manumitted him in 1848 after moving to Rising Sun. Garrett would marry twice, to Sarah Ellis and Francis Kennedy. He had one child. Garrett acted as a conductor on the Underground Railroad system. His job working on riverboats allowed him to travel to New Orleans, Louisiana. There he collected slaves wanting freedom and took them north to Rising Sun, where they used the network of stations that took them north to freedom. Garrett died in Terre Haute, Indiana, and is interred at Highlands Lawn Cemetery there. Matilda Barkshire lived from July the 19th, 1828, until November the 17th, 1892. She was also the daughter of Samuel Barkshire and Frances Harriet Barkshire. During her early life, she lived as a slave owned by Dickie Barkshire and later of Joseph and Nancy Hawkins. And Nancy manumitted her along with the rest of the kids after she moved to Rising Sun in 1848. There is no documentation of the daughters participating in the Underground Railroad activities of their parents. However, their presence in the home allows speculation that they were somehow involved. She married George W. Kennedy on October the 21st, 1851, and later Willis Wade on December the 10th, 1871. She had 2 children. She passed away in Terre Haute and is interred there. Emily Barkshire, basically the same thing as her sister. She was manumitted in 1848, and she and Samuel Washington Martin married on December the 5th, 1853. The couple would have 7 children. She and her husband migrated to Akron, Ohio. She is interred in Glendale Cemetery in Akron, Ohio. Woodford, Berkshire, born 1832 and lived until August the 25th, 1868. After he moved to Rising Sun, he became a conductor in the Underground Railroad, helping his parents in their task of aiding slaves seeking freedom in Canada. He and Virginia Sawyers married on June the 16th, 1858. The couple would have 3 children. Woodrow was interred in Union Cemetery in Rising Sun after his death. Minerva Berkshire lived from September the 15th to 1836 until January the 11th, 1908. She and Noah B. Tutt married on November the 4th, 1854. The family migrated to Muscatine, Iowa. After her death, she was interred at Greenwood Cemetery in Muscatine, Iowa. This is an excerpt from my book, Southeast Indiana Day Trips. You can find the book on my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. It's available in a number of formats, including ebook, softbound, and audiobook on Amazon, as well as many other online book retailers. You may also purchase the book direct from me, the author, on the website. The family also appears in my book, A History of Ohio County, Indiana, also available on the website. I am also including it in a book I'm currently working on which will be entitled Interesting Hoosiers in History, due to be published sometime this year. That book's going to it's been a fun book to work on. It contains biographies of a lot of different people that lived in Indiana. I would encourage you to visit the website. Subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also invite you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you will find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of contents, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you subscribe to it and receive email notification of when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. If you like what I'm doing, please purchase a book as it helps fund my work. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you.